Hand sanding is done to remove marks from your wood. It's important to know what the grit number means. The grit of sandpaper tells you how rough the paper is. The number refers to a 1-inch area of paper when it's new and how many pieces of grit are in that area. For example, this sandpaper here is 220 grit. So if we flipped it over and drew a rectangle or square that's 1 inch by 1 inch on here, we would find 220 pieces of sanding grit in that square. If the number is smaller, for example, 80 grit, the pieces of sand grit in here are going to be larger, which makes the paper rougher. The smaller the number, 60 grit, the rougher the paper. The larger the number, 150 grit or 400, the smoother the paper. Most of the machines in the shop have sandpaper that is 60 grit. So hand sanding for us would normally begin with 80 grit or at times 150 grit. The next higher grit will remove the marks from the previous one. So if you went to a machine and it had 60 grit paper on it, to get rid of the marks from the machine, you would need to hand sand it with 80 grit paper. Once you're done with the 80 grit paper, to get rid of the marks from the 80 grit paper, you would then sand it with the 150 grit paper. If you skip grits in the order, you won't remove the marks. These grits, 60, 80, and 150, will remove visible marks, marks you can see. 220, 320, and 400 will polish your wood, but will not remove the marks that were put into the wood by the coarse paper. The coarser sandpapers, 60, 80, and 150, need to use a sanding block. When you're using the polishing grits, 220, 320, 400, paper towel, and paper, do not use a sanding block behind it. Instead, fold the sandpaper twice to make a little package when you're sanding with your hand.